Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K.
Thanks so much for stopping by and checking out my latest project. I have created a shabby bird's nest, and I used mainly snippets of laces and trims and material from my stash to create these. I do have a plan for the smaller one on the left hand side. I will be using it in a bird cage that I'm decorating, and so that was my kind of main inspiration for making a bird's nest, was to be able to have a bird's nest in the bird cage that I'm decorating. And so of course I went on to Pinterest and YouTube looking for inspiration, and there are all sorts of wonderful ideas out there on how to create little bird's nests. And I ran across a gal named Lily, and I forgot to write down her last name, but I will link it below in the description box. But she had a project share of a bird's nest that she created using chicken wire and laces and trims from her stash. And then she went ahead and actually decorated some real eggs for her nest. I just chose to use some store-bought eggs. But that was my main inspiration, and I just liked the idea that I was able to use up a whole bunch of snippets and laces and trims. I probably could have made them even more shabbier and added more appliques and bling and those kind of things, but I kind of wanted to make mine look like a little bit more of an authentic nest or a real nest, and possibly a bird that got into my lace stash and decided to make a nest out of it. The bird's nest that's on the left hand side is about 6.5 inches wide, and the one on the right hand side is 8.5 inches wide, and I do have them tilted just a little bit so you guys can kind of see into them. I will go ahead and change the camera view from up on top, which is how I normally record my videos, so you guys can kind of take another peek at these. And then I will go ahead and do the process tutorial, and for the process tutorial I am making the smaller nest, the one on the left hand side. Okay, I am back with kind of another view of my bird's nest. Again, this is the smaller of the two. And again, I made it with chicken wire, weaving in and out with the laces and trims and yarn. And then I just kind of wrapped up the ones on the inside that you see in here. Currently, I have not glued anything down in this project. My bird and everything is loose, and you could even take out all of the inside pieces. I just really wanted my nest to look really authentic and real, and so I decided not to glue everything in place. If I decide to later on, I can easily do that if I want my bird to sit in one particular spot. Again, I will be using this little one inside of a bird cage that I'm decorating, but I did want to share it with you guys. And if you guys watch the tutorial, this is the one that we will be making in the tutorial, but you can kind of see that's what the bottom looks like. Again, I just wrapped a lot of fabric in and out and weaved it in and out of the chicken wire. There's also some cheesecloth in there. And then on the inside is kind of where I chose to use the laces that I had left over from some other projects. And again, you very easily could add some really pretty bling. You could add some beads to it. You could actually glue on some appliques. I know there was a lot of people that I saw on Pinterest and YouTube that did that. Very cute, but again, I wanted my bird nest to look a little bit more authentic, and like I said, possibly like a bird had gotten into my stash of laces and trims and yarns and decided to make a little nest. So that is the smaller of the two. Here is the larger of the two nests that I created, and when I first started making these, this was my first prototype one that I did, and so I did finish this one, but I knew after I had kind of made it, it was going to be too big for my final project. And then I also kind of found an easier way to do it, which is the way I'll show you guys in the tutorial for the other one. But I did want to show you what this finished one looked like. I did it exactly the same way of weaving in and out of the chicken wire. This one I did go ahead and add some bead trim that I had in my stash. And this one, instead of the pink eggs, I added a little bit larger white eggs. There's the kind of the size difference. And just added the same bird. Again, nothing is glued down inside of this one. Everything is just, the main part of it's just weaved in and out of the chicken wire, and the rest of it just kind of wrapped on the inside like an actual bird's nest would be, but I will kind of tip this one upside down too so you guys can kind of see what it looks like on the bottom. Again, it's just a lot of fabric weaved in and out of the chicken wire and then weaved in and out of itself until I couldn't see the chicken wire anymore is basically what I did on these. But I wanted to show you guys those, and if you are interested in checking out the tutorial, stay tuned for that. Hello everyone, I'm here today to attempt to make a shabby chic bird's nest. A couple weeks ago I decided in my head I wanted to make a bird's nest out of laces and trims, and so I started doing some research because I knew that it wasn't probably a new idea and that there was probably a lot of people out there who have created these before in the past, and so I searched Pinterest and YouTube and Instagram and all those good spots for inspiration. And on YouTube I came across a gal, and her name is Lily. I can't remember offhand what her last name is, but I will link her channel information below in the description box so you guys can find her and kind of look at the video that I'll be talking about a little bit. But anyway, she created a bird's nest out of chicken wire and then added her laces and trims, and then she also decorated the most gorgeous real eggs to put in her nest. I won't be doing the real eggs. But anyways, last night I went ahead and her video, she just talks about how she did it. She did not do a tutorial, but what she had talked about doing was taking a piece of chicken wire that she cut out in a circle, and then she cut out some strips of chicken wire and wrapped it around the sides of it. And so that's what I went ahead and did. And it turned out great, and I will use this little attempt at a bird's nest. But what I found when I was making this one is my hands got really scratched up and beat up, and then also it was really tough on them. I do have a little bit of arthritis in a couple of my fingers, just doing all the bending of the wire and everything. So I thought, well, maybe there's a little bit easier way for me to do it. And so I thought about it, and when I woke up this morning I kind of came up with another idea. And so instead of just going ahead and starting it, I thought I would try it with you guys and kind of record it and see how it goes. So what I ended up doing is taking a piece of chicken wire, and then I also searched my house for a bowl that kind of reminded me a little bit of a nest or the size I was wanting to go for. And I found this bowl, and it does measure approximately about 6 inches round. And I took a piece of chicken wire that was wider than the bowl, and I started forming it but just by pressing the chicken wire down inside of the bowl. And for those of you guys that don't have chicken wire, this one is like real authentic chicken wire that they use for chickens and making little pens out of them. You might be able to find some hobby chicken wire which might actually have smaller honeycombs, which would probably work even better for this project. But this is what I happen to have on hand. And I just bought this chicken wire a couple of years ago, like at a farm implement type store that sells farming products, and they had chicken wire. I use it for some gardening stuff. But anyways, getting back to the project, so I just went ahead and just pushed it down in there, which was a lot easier than attaching all the pieces of chicken wire together. And so now I am going to go ahead and just take my little wire cutter, and I'm just going to cut around. I am going to leave a little bit of a top here to begin with. I can cut off more if I need to, but I'm going to go ahead and just trim off some of this extra chicken wire that I'm not going to be using in my nest. And if you look after I formed it too, before I start cutting, you can kind of see that there is a shape here to my little nest. Okay, so I have gone ahead and cut off a lot of the excess chicken wire that I'm not going to be using. And these ones that are just hanging out here, I think I'm just going to kind of bend a little bit in place. Get rid of all the little ends sticking out because I won't need them. At least I don't think so. So now here's kind of what I have. You know, it doesn't have to look perfect. And then now at this point, if you want, you can also kind of reshape it a little bit more. If you want your bowl to be a little bit deeper, your nest. And I have to say that this was a little bit easier for me to put together than that first one that I showed you guys, just by pushing it down and just pushing the ends in. I am going to be wrapping stuff around there, so I'm not too worried if there's a little bit of the wire still sticking out on the sides. But I think that's going to work for my little nest. And so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab little snippets of laces, leftover material. And I know in Lily's video, she talked about just using the laces and trims that she didn't care for as much or were just remnants first. And then towards the end, she started wrapping in her nicer ones. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. To begin with, I think I just have some scrap material, some white muslin I'm going to start with. And I'm kind of going for kind of a neutral color scheme, so white and off-white. So that's what I'm going to start off with. So actually what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to take another piece of wire and just maybe make a top circle for my nest. And then I'm just going to try and wrap some twine around it, or not twine, but material around it just for my top part. So I'm going to do that real quick before I weave anything else in here. I don't think it really matters what type of wire you use as long as you were able to bend it. This wire actually came with the chicken wire. It was wrapped around it on the roll, so I'm just reusing that wire. And I'm just going to kind of wrap it, kind of weave it in and out through the top part here, but it doesn't have to be perfect, I don't think. Just to kind of give it a little bit more of a round shape up at the top. Then I'm just going to kind of wrap it around right up here just to hold it somewhat in place. And it's not a perfect circle, but it'll give me something to wrap some of the material around the top. So I'm just going to take that apart. I think I'm just going to take this off and start over again. So here's what it looks like with that wire added around the top. And I don't have my hot glue gun plugged in at the moment, so I'm just going to just use a little bit of Fabri-Tac, I think, just to try and hold this a little bit in place. Or maybe I'll just tie a knot. I think I'm just going to tie a knot, actually. Because it's all going to get covered up anyways in the end, so... So I'm just going to tie it on like that, and I'm just going to kind of wrap it around the top of my nest. And in nature, not all nests are perfect, so like I said, I'm not too concerned that this isn't perfectly round. Who knows, there's probably a spot out there where you could actually go out and buy a wire nest already pre-made, but sometimes it's kind of fun to do it yourself. And again, I'm just using scraps left over from past projects to do this. I'm just going to tie the next one on because that one wasn't long enough. So there's what I have so far. Now I'm going to go ahead and start weaving. I have a little bit more left of this scrap material, so I'll start with this stuff.
I continue to weave in between the chicken wire and trims already in place with various snippets of lace, tulle, cheesecloth, and fabric. After completing the base of the nest, I add some longer pieces of lace, eyelash trim, and yarn to the inside of the nest. I twist the trims and then tie them in a very loose knot, creating the inside of the nest. I add extra yarn around the inside layer to fill out the nest. To finish my nest, I add 4 decorative eggs and a white bird. Thanks so much for watching my project share and process video of a shabby bird's nest using leftover snippets from my stash. I hope you all have a wonderful day and happy crafting.